I had a commenter who responded to my series where I talked about fathers who become aggressive with their daughters after finding out their daughters have been intimate with a man or are in relationships with men. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. And I wanted to respond to a commenter who is on my YouTube channel with respect to this series about daughters and their fathers who act inappropriately. This commenter says, "Why the hell would you tell your dad you are physically intimate with someone? I would lie my butt off. LOL. Some things are not to be told to your parents." Shaking my head. Sometimes a little white lie is necessary. And I wanted to respond to this comment, and no disrespect towards this commenter or anybody who's written in about their father being inappropriate or sexually inappropriate towards them. And trigger warning, by the way. But here's what I think, based off of that. There's a number of reasons about why girls would tell their fathers that they've been physically intimate. First, number one, if you grew up in a house with controlling parents, um, then you know that you don't really have any sense of privacy when you grow up in a house with controlling parents. Controlling parents will go through your room, they'll go through your phone, they'll go through your personal items, they will question you, interrogate you really through all hours of the night and demand complete and total honesty to them and won't let you rest until they get it. There's no such thing as privacy or freedom when you're growing up with with a controlling parent or parents. Number two, some dads are just super nosy and like in your business. Whether they go through things, they're looking for information, they're checking for that kind of stuff. They're just nosy. So, you know, and they feel like they have the right to know. And not just dads, but men in general, I find are nosy or can be, or very inquisitive about personal business, even about women that they're not really affiliated with. So I'll just use myself as an example. So, for example, any job that I've worked at, the men there will ask me about things like, "Oh, I noticed you were talking to so and so a little bit, a little bit. What's going on there? Or what did you do this weekend? Were you hanging out with your boyfriend?" So they're fishing. They tend to fish for something, and they feel like they have a right to know. Every single job I've had, and these are men that are married with full-on families. They tend to fish for information. I noticed you, were talking to so and so a long time. We actually placed a bet that you guys were dating, something along those lines. And those are men I don't really have that type of relationship with. And my own father, for example, I'll give you a little story as an aside. I'm a grown woman, by the way. I'm 46. And so maybe when I was in my early 40s, I was at my father's house and I spend the night with them. But I whenever I go back home, I saw some friends and some people, and we hung out for a while, and that while turned out to be until 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning. And I came back home to my father's house, and he has, his hearing is out of this world. And so, I came in, went to bed, didn't think anything of it. And so the next morning we get up and we're at breakfast, and he's like, "Oh, the night hawk finally flew in. What were you doing all the wee hours of the night?" and things like that. And so you just, you have somebody that's really wanting to ask questions and, poke the bear, so to speak, until they get an answer. And, it's their way of saying, "I know you were up to no good coming in so late. Ha ha ha. I need to know what you did." But there's people that are just inquisitive in that way, and that's a little bit different. I mean, it can be harmless, but it can also be a way of like feeling like I have the right to know information in a more passive way than I spoke about in the previous one. But I've known women where their fathers and things like that go through their trash, and they're trying to find evidence of something. I've unfortunately even seen situations back when I was a youngster and I worked at the grocery store. I've actually seen situations where girls' fathers have come on the job and embarrassed them. Where they've been scolded publicly. They wanted to know where they were, what they have been doing, and that kind of stuff. So sometimes they may have lied and used another thing to say, hey, I'm somewhere else, but then have gotten caught up, because their fathers are, they would look for them and things like that, or they would look to see what they have been doing. And so they may have gotten caught up in a little white lie. So that's the other thing too, is like, children who get caught up in their lives, because you have parents that will call around, that will look for them, that will go and search for them and try to figure out where they were to inquire. And then you have other parents that will also booby trap certain things, so such as their door or things like that. And you guys may think I'm joking, but this stuff is serious. So you have parents that put things in certain places to see if there's a disturbance, whether it be, moving, the car, whether it be a door, whether it be all sorts of things where they try to set their children up to see if they're going anywhere, doing anything or whatnot. Other types of controlling parents will also sneak around and listen to their children's phone calls, whether it be that they're standing outside of the door, or if you happen to have a landline where parents will secretly pick up the phone and listen on the other end of the landline. So you have parents that are very controlling and will find out information, that will go through extreme lengths to find out information. Even parents who are so bold to even pick up the phone and call your daughter's boyfriend, or I see this number has been calling my daughter. Who are you and what are you, and all this other kind of stuff. So you have those super restricted parents who are controlling, that will go through and call numbers that call their children, very much like a jealous lover. Parents who will scrutinize their phone bills and things like that, who will look to see numbers that they don't recognize to try to find out information. So, kids that are controlled don't have the option to lie, really. If they do, that can cost them their livelihood. I mean, they could certainly do it, and they may get away with it here and there. But when you have a parent that is hyper focused on catching you and controlling you, it's just a matter of time before they find out certain things, and they become very disruptive to your peace, and to your overall livelihood. You literally are walking on eggshells in your own home, because they won't let you rest. So I hope that helps. Thanks so much for asking this, because I'm quite sure a lot of other people are maybe wondering about this as well. But chances are, if you have a father that is, um, his reaction is over the top when he finds out his daughter has been intimate, there's a good chance that that daughter is coming from a home and where her father was already controlling of her in the first place. Thanks so much.